Hello, and welcome to the SharePoint Framework and JavaScript Special Interest Group Biweekly Sync. It is July 29th, 2021. Amazingly, how quickly summer is flying by. I'm your host, Patrick Rodgers, and I'm excited to bring to you another great call with our agenda here today. Latest updates around SharePoint Framework, the patterns and practices updates from the program, new community samples. We'll do our optional picture time for folks, and then demos. We've got a demo from Omar on a hero web part and tiles for the V2 web part. And then Hugo exposing business data in Viva Connections or in SharePoint with custom diagram web parts. Very excited to see both of those. But first, let's get through our normal set of slides here. People often ask, how can you participate in the Patterns and Practices program or get more involved in these calls? And the first thing I would suggest to you is please reach out to demo your solutions. I know everyone out there is doing great work for your customers or your companies. And as is appropriate, of course, would love to have you able to demo those for us on the call and for the community. I always learn a ton from the demos, and I'm always excited to see the neat ways folks are solving problems out there in the community, and I think we could all learn from that. So if you're interested in demoing, please reach out to myself or Vesa, and we'll get you signed up for an upcoming call. As well, you can contribute on GitHub. All of our repositories absolutely accept pull requests, and you can report issues, and very much encourage you to report issues if you find problems or have questions, because that's how we can help. If you're having trouble and don't let anybody know, nobody can really help out then. So please let us know if you're having issues. As I like to say, we don't love getting issues, but we love being able to solve issues. So please let us know. And of course, if you see issues or questions other people might have, you can always drop in and help out with those. That's a great way to help, and it might get folks answers a little bit faster than waiting for somebody from the core team to get back to them. And finally, we always appreciate feedback on everything we do. So how are these calls? How is our documentation? Where can we help? And positive feedback is okay too. If you like something we're doing, let us know. Perhaps we could do a bit more of it. Next up is our page links. So we've got a bunch of different content around from the Patterns and Practices program and from other groups as well. But the first section there is the Microsoft 365 developer videos. These are going to be videos focused on scenarios around perhaps building a SharePoint Framework web part or using the Microsoft Graph Toolkit, things like that. Our community videos are going to be all of the recordings from this call, the other special interest group calls, our monthly calls, and other community oriented calls. So less single topic and more just these kind of call recordings. So you can always catch up if you have missed a session or just want to review something that was presented in a previous community call. As well, we've got a bunch of great GitHub organizations across, sort of the patterns and practices landscape, SharePoint, PnP, Office Dev, and Microsoft Graph. All of them have opportunities to participate, opportunities to contribute, and tons of opportunities to learn and great tools and resources to help build your solutions. As well, lots of great samples built by all of you in the community. So love to keep seeing these grow. We've got team samples, SPFX, Power Platform, SPFX extensions, and list formatting samples all available. And as I always say, when I've got a new project or a new question I'm trying to figure out, I always go check and see here if somebody's already tackled that and I can learn from what they've done. Great resource as well for the community in the sample gallery. And then finally, that's a lot of links to remember. You just need to remember ak.ms/m365 PnP, and that will take you to the Patterns and Practices landing page, which will link to all of the rest of this content, as well as links to our community calls, and as well as lots of great information there on what's going on across all of the Patterns and Practices programs, ak.ms/m365 PnP. As well, the summer break, and we've got changes to the community call schedule. This is affecting July and August, so really mostly through July at this point. These Thursday calls will be continuing. Our monthly calls are canceled for summer, but we'll be bringing back a whole new set of calls, hopefully a little bit easier to follow and a little bit easier to get track the content you want to review when we come back in September. So we're hoping we'll have a little bit of a better schedule and a little bit of a more condensed schedule, because I know there's tons and tons of community calls. It's very hard to get to all of them. and hopefully we can consolidate into one, not one call, but one sort of set of calls across all of those, just to make it a little bit easier for folks to follow. As well, this is going to be David for Sharing is Caring.
Thanks, Patrick. Well, friends, as you will see, there are a ton of opportunities to collaborate and use the resources within our community. We are an open source and inclusive community, but we understand that there are some hurdles many times to start consuming as well as contributing back. So Sharing is Caring is an initiative. If you've not heard of it, it is providing hands-on, live, interactive guidance on how to do a variety of things, such as first-time contributions to GitHub. What is a pull request? How do you navigate that landscape? I want to start presenting. Do you have some tips and tricks? Maturity model, so much more. These are absolutely free sessions. They are scheduled every month. We also have the popular Ask Me Anything, which is scheduled for September 28th for the Power Platform. So please, if you would like to get involved, start using some of the samples, you want to start contributing back to the samples, don't hesitate to join a session, aka.ms/sharing is caring. Now, once you have done that and contributed back, we go to the next slide. We're going to see how you are going to be celebrated. We love and are so encouraged by the contributions that you make to the community. We have generated a new recognition program. This is powered by Credly, and this is actually just like the same certification badges you get when you get Microsoft certified. So it's exciting. It's going to show up right next to that. We're going to have a lot of campaigns coming up as we get further into the year, different ways to get special edition badges and different ways to celebrate your success and your contributions. It is a manual process, so please be patient with us. We're going to be working on sending some of those badges out today and tomorrow, so keep on the lookout for that. But we do need you to opt in and register so we can connect your contributions to your email address that is going to be associated to Credly. So go to aka.ms/m365pnp-recognition, register today so that we can celebrate you. Patrick, back to you.
Thank you, David, for that, and love to see both the Sharing is Caring continue to grow and see the folks go through that. And as well, this recognition program is a really cool way to kind of brag about the work you all are doing in the PnP community. So very excited to see this as well. And then, so updates around SharePoint Framework. I will be Vesa today, and want to remind folks there is a Viva Connections public developer preview. You used to have to sign up, but that is all over. So you can go to ak.ms/viva/connections/developer/preview, and that will give you access to what is now a public beta of the Viva Connections framework, or Viva Connections developer framework, and still figuring out how to talk about it exactly, but it's really exciting. I've been doing a lot of that this week, playing with Viva Connections and doing some dev with the ACEs, and it's really cool. There's a lot of neat features and a lot of fun ways to interact with these cards, and a lot of kind of interesting scenarios I think folks are going to be able to build here. So definitely check this out. We'll have lots more demos of this kind of stuff on community calls in the future. And if you build something cool, we'd love to have you demo it on the call. So check us out. Road ahead, future features. That could be harder to say, I guess. SharePoint Framework 1.13 beta is out. That is part of the Viva Connections extensibility tooling for the preview. I've been using that pretty successfully, so check that out. You do need to remember the --+ beta command. That's caught me up a few times when I've been confused why I don't have the option for ACEs. So make sure you follow those directions, but check that out. So the 1.13 is what's going to give you access to the ACEs. Very interesting, fun new development paradigm, I think. I think that's going to be really interesting for folks. Viva Connections, the year of Viva. So that's a lot of different things are going to come together for Viva, but this is the extensibility story, is through the SharePoint Framework 1.13. So definitely check that out. Looking at a lot of Teams improvements and some tighter integration between Teams and SharePoint Framework, and as well as better support for these kind of cross-service solutions. So SharePoint Framework or SharePoint solutions and Teams solutions, better support for those to work together. Simplified developer scenarios for Teams, and then some tooling updates. We're making a lot of updates on the Teams toolkit for SharePoint Framework development. Specific guidance and reference samples are coming, and evolve the use of the tech based on what's going on in the industry. So always looking to try and get feedback from folks, get things updated, make things easier, and just work better with how you are already doing your development. So enable you and not get in your way. Store modernization as well, looking to do good amount of work around the SharePoint store and the app catalog. I've seen some previews, really neat improvements, some really great stuff coming there. Very excited to see that work happening and getting out to the world. And I will now also get to be Julie Turner today because she is at SPFx Chicago, I believe, and I don't see her on the call. So PnP JS client-side updates, we got 2.8.0 scheduled for August 13th. Some new features for Graph. There are some issues in the list we haven't had a chance to look at yet, but we'll look to make sure we get as much of that resolved for the 2.8 release as we can. As well, V3 development is underway. You can check out a pinned issue that's kind of an overview of our V3 plans. The V3 branch is there. Everybody could take a look at that. It is ugly and it does not quite work fully yet, but happy to have feedback, have folks look at that. And as well, we are looking to possibly host just a session or a call on V3 and talk through some of the new stuff that's coming. If you're interested in helping with V3, let us know. And then as well, we are automatically locking closed issues after 30 days, just FYI. If you have an issue similar to one that's been locked, please just open a new issue and you can always reference that old issue and we could take it from there. And no, the rabbit was attacking a horse that had snuck into the slide. All feedback should go to the issues list. I very much appreciate all the feedback folks are giving us around the library and look forward to starting to talk through some of the V3 work. Now, stepping through into the CLI for Microsoft 365, we have a new preview out, 3.12, with updating SPFX projects to the 1.13 beta, and that's the Viva Connections preview version. Just a reminder, there's no reason to update your current production projects to the 1.13 beta today, except for testing. That is still a beta and very much not ready for production use. That's SPFX 1.13. So 1.12.1 is still the current production-ready version of SPFX. You could retrieve OneDrive sites, retrieving planner plans and buckets, and then adding planner buckets as well. You can always install the latest beta, npm install -g at pnp/cli-microsoft365@next. You could also install a Docker container that has the CLI ready to go in it using the command there. And you could try a preview of version 4, looking again to have a release this fall with npm install -g, all that stuff at 4 will get you the version 4 preview there. So excited to see CLI continue to evolve and all the folks involved in making that happen. Really great to see that grow and get better and better. SPFX reusable components. So there are two sets of controls here. The first is React controls, 2.8 and 3.2.1. Those are for SPFX 1.11 and earlier, and SPFX 1.12.1 and later, respectively. So you've got dynamic forms, location pickers, fast serve support, combo box list item picker, people picker, list picker, and various fixes and enhancements. Really excited to see those updates coming through. And as well, the React property controls designed to be used in the edit pane of your SharePoint Framework web parts. I now also have fast serve support as well as a bunch of fixes. So thank you to everybody that's contributed here. This is another initiative that just keeps growing and getting better and love to see it. So thank you to all of you who have helped out with the reusable components. Next up is modern search. So you can always check out aka.ms/PnP search for the latest details and documentation. This is all around building modern search experiences with a set of web parts. So you can construct your own search portals how you would like to do so using these web parts. Version 4.3.0 was our July release. So link there to the release details, Dutch translation support, proper fix for custom helpers and web components across web parts, as well as a persona card fix. And then we had as well a release of the version 3 branch to 3.21 was the July release there. So it fixes some paging verticals and synonyms and preview. Just a reminder that the version 3 branch is sort of in kind of support and new development is occurring in the version 4 branch. So as you are able, encourage you to look to upgrade to the version 4 branch and certainly that's where the future development is going to be. And now I will take a break from talking and pass things over to Hugo for details on our samples.
Oh, you're doing so well being everybody else. I thought you would you'd want to do me too. That didn't come across right. Anyways, hi everybody. So we have two repositories with the SPFX extensions and the SPFX web parts that can be used for you to learn by example, right? So there's tons of solutions out there, and they're all open source. They're all contributed by community, and they can range from a simple concept to a full-on solution that you can use to learn and build your solutions from. So these are the updates for the last 2 weeks. Michael Romizeski actually updated the machine translation extension. He's added the ability to use regional Azure Translate resource. And what else we've got? Also, we've upgraded it to SPFX 1.12.1. On the web part side, we have an update to the data table by Abderrahman Mujahid, who fixed the export to CSV. The hero web part by Omar El Anis updated to automatically detect how many items are being displayed and adjust the display layout based on this. Adjusted to show the title on all the images, descriptions on hovers, hover effect for images to show zoom effect, which is very cool. Just a general cleanup. And again, that's an SPFX 1.12.1 solution. And then we have a new web part by Giuliano Del Luca, the cross-device data, which actually shows you how to have your settings in a web part and then move between, let's say, OneDrive and SharePoint and keep those settings across multiple devices. That's an SPFX 1.12.1 solution as well. And then the web part that I'll be showing you today, although it shows 1.12.1, it's actually 1.13, but it's a diagram web part, which allows you to create diagrams and show data. And I won't ruin the fun. I'll talk to you about it very shortly. So that's it. We always welcome collaborations by people, and we love everything that everyone's doing. Thank you, everyone, for being awesome. And back to you, Patrick.
Thank you, Hugo, for those great updates, and thank you for being awesome, Hugo. So now we are going to move over to our optional picture time. So David, are you able to do our screen capture and such here?
Yep, absolutely. All right, get everything set up here. Still some time if people would like to share their. All right, give me just one moment and away we go. Let's wave, everybody. Thank you for all joining today. Awesome. Love to see the community spirit. And there's Patrick. All right, got him in. Awesome. All right, I got it. Thanks.
Awesome. So our first demo is going to be Omar. Omar, if you are ready to go, you could go ahead and share your screen and take it away.
Yep. Will do. So first, long-time listener, first-time presenter, so bear with me. Some details about me. So my name's Omar Lanis, system developer and entrepreneur. There's my GitHub and my kind of blog. So if you want to get in touch with me, feel free to for any of those methods. So the first one that I'm going to run through is the Tile v2 web part. This is basically an extension of the awesome web part that Hugo created in the past that was then merged into the new starter kit. So I basically just took that and made some adjustments to it and updated it to use the icon picker instead of having to go to the web address and select the icon that you wanted, and a few other tweaks as well just to make it flexible. So what I will do first, I will quickly show you guys how it looks. So this is basically the web part in question. So when you hover over it, it pops up and shows you a description of the web part. And then depending on the size of it, the area that it's in, sorry, it will adjust it to fit into there. So in a smaller one, using the flex, it will set that one because it's larger than the area to a full size one. And again, depending on the screen, it will basically just adjust it as you're kind of moving it along different area sizes. So updating it, basically it uses a collection data set, which you can update in here. So you click on configure the tiles. Then you've got the option to set the title, the description, that gets shown when you hover over it, and a link. And then, so this is part of the new bit, which is where you select the icon. So by clicking that, you basically get a list of all the icons that you can select from. So let's say if I was to add in a new one here. And then I can choose, let's go for a happy face. And you can choose if it opens in a new tab or inside the current one. And then you can see that's added that in there for me. And again, if I move this down, you'll see now there's room for more than one tile there. So instead of it being full, it will just pop them next to each other's, and it will kind of keep moving on and doing that. It does work in Teams as well, but it is a little bit glitchy. So that's not currently being advertised. But you can add it in by manually adding the app in. You have to sideline it. It doesn't work for the SharePoint app catalog. I'm not sure why. I haven't got that far. The glitchy bit at the moment is you'll see it kind of like jumps a bit, which I haven't had a chance yet to look at. Something for the future. But that is also a cool thing that you can do with SPFX as well. So that's kind of oh, sorry, I forgot to show you these bits. So you can also adjust the size of the tiles. If you go too far, you might end up squashing the text, but that's your preference to just adjust that using the slider bar. You can also set it either to inherit the theme from the site, or if you wanted, you can adjust that to manually choose whatever colors you needed in there, as well as the font. That looks ugly, but you guys hopefully get the idea. And then you've got your tiles there for people to use. So kind of moving along to the code bit. As I said, most of this was done by Hugo, so I can't take credit for it. Just small bits that have kind of been added in. So the key bit inside the code, which allows us to do the tile picker, is down here inside the property pane configuration, which is the property pane that pops up on the right-hand side when you're configuring it. So inside our collection data, which is where we're holding all the details, so the title, description, the URL, the icon, this is the bit. There was a new feature. I'm not sure exactly when it was released, but you can now add in custom elements essentially that you can build yourself, or if it's already built, as is the case for the icon picker one, you can use that, and that information is available on the PnP SPFX website. So this bit here, the property field collection data, you scroll down to the bottom, it actually explains how you can do the custom field rendering, which is what I've used there. And we'll see that again in the hero web part in a minute. But it allows you to basically render your own elements in there, so you're not restricted to the ones that are available out of the box. So basically inside here, all we're doing is then creating an icon picker, which is, again, an element available from PnP. It won't be in this bit, so I'll skip that for now. And basically just selecting the file, storing it inside there for the icon name, and then passing that through. So when we then render, where is it? So then when we come to render the actual elements, inside here, we are going to pass that through the collection data as a property. So this will essentially then call this one here, which will go through the collection data set that we've got, and as long as it's not empty, it uses the map function to then iterate through these and create a tile element using that data that we've retrieved from there. That then basically in turn calls this component tile, which is where it does the magic to actually create the tiles, set the color, and populate the information inside it. So you'll see, for example, for the color stuff, if they've selected in the property screen at the beginning to use a custom color, then it will set the color based on whatever was chosen before. If it's set to use not have a custom color, then it will just use the theme color instead. All of this can be customized and changed to whatever is needed afterwards. Similar again for the font size, for example, when using the slider, that's basically set here. So if you've used the slider, it will set the font size for you. You can see the styling done, which is inside here. Here's somewhere. Is it this one? Is it this one? Yeah. So for the flex, basically, you can see how that's being done inside here. So you've got it set to flex and to wrap. Again, this can all be changed, so you can update it to whatever is needed from there. That hopefully I think kind of covers the tile one. So I'll answer any questions if there are any at the end, but I'll move on to the hero one, which is this one here. So the hero one, basically, I had quite a few projects where I wanted something similar to the out-of-the-box hero web part that's available, but I wanted to be able to customize it and display stuff in different views, etc. So as a result of that, I thought, well, the next best thing is to kind of build my own version of it. So that's where this web part kind of comes into play, which I'll show you here. So this is the hero web part, and what it does is it will display a number of different pictures that you select, which I'll show in a second, and it will show them in a grid view like this, similar to the out-of-the-box one. It will readjust depending on the size of the area. If it's really small, advisable not to use too many because it will kind of squash it in. But basically, the way that this one works, so if I go to edit it, so we can set a title if you want, and it will pop up on top. So, and then using a similar concept to the tiles one, we've got the option to manage the data that we're going to put in there. So you can choose the title, which is displayed in white when you're just viewing it, and it will display it when you hover over. And then you have the description field as well, which is just this bit here. And then you can choose what link to open when somebody clicks on that. And then you've got the option to select the image, basically. This can be changed so that you can actually include upload files if you want, which I'll cover in a bit, but I've not implemented that functionality. So for now, for the one that's available, it's stock images to use, basically. But there's a whole host of images that you can select from. So it's just a case of selecting an image, clicking on insert, and that's it. So that image, sorry, let me actually create one. So if my new item, let me try that again. My new item. One thing I've noticed with the property panels, it's similar with the search one as well. When you're in here, if you click out or accidentally press Control-Z instead of Control-C, it knocks it out. So something I try and be careful of. Anyway, so I'll go in, choose an image. Let's do some nice carrots. And then click Add and Save. And then if I save this, we should then have this show up as now. That's now got my new image that I added in there a second ago inside there as well. You can remove them quite easily. So if I didn't want the My Role one, I could just get rid of that. I'm not sure if I've published the latest one. This should be automatically updating as I'm making these changes. So I might need to double check. I might not have uploaded it to the app catalog yet, but that should actually update as I'm making these changes. So I shouldn't have to keep pressing save every time. But anyway, so as you can see there, that's now got my new carrot inside there as well. The other option that you can choose to do is to show more courses than 5. So if it's off, you won't see the pagination option. If you switch it to on, you'll see the option to go through the list of available items. So if there's more than 5 items in there, that will show you a list, and you can scroll through them. You can also then, if you want, hide the back button and the forward button. That's basically all that those kind of bits do in there. That, I think, covers that bit, hopefully. So I'll move on to the code side of it, which is just here. So this is using a lot of PnP controls to do this. Specifically, just showing second the file picker element. So again, we're using a collection data set to do this, and a custom one, which was basically going to import the file picker, which then allows us to select the stock image and then to save that, the image details inside the collection data set. So if I scroll down, so we've got the standard render element. This will send through all the information that's being selected on the property screen. So the collection data, which is that bit just there. So as long as it exists, it will send the collection data. Otherwise, it will just send a blank element. The show all hero is if you've selected to show all the items, not just the 5, and then that basically is what enables the pagination option. And again, these are kind of self-explanatory. They hide the first page and last page. And if it is paginated, which is again related to the pagination option. So moving down, we've got the property pane configuration window, which is where we're pulling in the information that we want to retrieve from it. So the key bit is the collection data, that bit right there. So then we've got the title that we've seen, the description, the URL, and the key one here being the file picker. So as we kind of saw in the tile one, you can create your own elements in here. So in the case of this one, it's a case of it using, instead of the icon picker, we're using the file picker. And then we're going to go through and we're going to choose the selected file and the ID for it, basically. If you wanted, which I alluded to before, to be able to actually upload content, either to a SharePoint document library, you can basically do that bit inside here. You can then update the option to true to allow it to show up in there, sorry, to false. So if I was to change hide local upload tab to false, we'll then get the option inside here. When I go to select file, you get the option here to be able to upload, but it won't actually do anything unless you then write the code in to say where you want it to save those pictures to. So as I mentioned, that's not there, but could be a task for someone if they're interested to kind of do that. So then, as before, we've got the show all heroes option, which says that we want to paginate it, and the other option is just to hide the first and the last one. So when it comes to rendering, it will basically call our hero web part, which is this one here. I know the naming is a little bit confusing. I initially named it hero web part, not really thinking that actually it's going to add a web part to it as well. So it's hero web part, and then over here, hero web part. But at that point, when I noticed I was a bit too far in, so I've left it as is. But basically, that will then call this code. This class will take in the information that's being sent, store it in the state. So we'll get the items variable, which stores all of the collection of items that we've chosen to display to the users. Depending on whether we choose for the information to be paginated, which is where we've selected show all heroes, it will fill that information from the items up here, but it will only select 5 items, because for the pagination, every time you click the next item, it will load another 5 items from that list, which I'll show in a second here. So this bit here, once these states have been set, it will go through, and as I mentioned there, it will set the state item for the items paginated to the first 5 items inside there. It will also set how many pages it should be shown. So if there are 10 elements, then it's going to be 10 divided by 2, which is going to be 10 divided by 5, which is going to be 2 pages. If there were 14, it would be 14 divided by 5, which is going to be, and it will round it up, which will be 3 pages. And that just defines how many pages get shown at the bottom, which is basically going back this bit here. So that defines how many are actually available for you to click on. The get page bit is every time you click, which is just down here when it renders it, every time you click on the button to say the next item, this function will get called. That sends through the page that you've clicked on. So if this was 2, for example, instead of 1, 2, that will send page number 2 to that function, which is the get page 1 that we had up here. And inside there, all that does is it looks at the item array, which we're setting as item slice, and then it will take that page, because of the index, it's always 0, 1, so it will -1 from that, and then it will basically take the next 5 elements from whatever page you've clicked on, and it will then set those into the items paginated state, and that will then be sent through to the renderer to render those 5 elements. This next bit, if there's no item selected, like when we first add in the web part, it's interesting. So let me just refresh that. Typical demo. Okay, that's the first time that's happened. I'm not too sure why it's giving me a message there. Okay, we've done a change right before it, which has affected it. That shouldn't happen. I'll double check that. But if it doesn't, if it's a brand new web part you just added on, basically that just adds in 5 empty elements just so that you can see how it will look before you update. This bit here just says that if there's been any changes to the property screen, so when we're coming in and we're editing the information in here, that will just call the component did update, and it will refresh the items so that it re-renders it inside there. So key thing for the render. At this point, when you load the page, the information gets sent through to this bit, and it will start to render the items. If there's nothing in the state yet, because the state can take a little bit of time to generate it, it will hold off and it will go back and call them. It will then check down here to see if you've selected to show all of the items, so not just the first 5 available. If you've selected show all, it will basically then send the items paginated, which is the list of the 5 items, depending on which page you've actually got visible on the screen. If it's not, then it will just only take the first 5 items. So it will slice the array and just show you the first 5 items. It will then call the hero element, which is up in there. If you've selected the pagination, then it will add in that pagination option, which is this bit down here. If you haven't, then that basically will not get displayed, it will be hidden. So if we go onto the hero layout section, this is where it actually generates each of the items inside there. It also will look at how many items exist inside the array, and it will set the class depending on how many items are available. So if, for example, we go down to this one will show us, if I can get into it. Okay. There we go. So you see the class is set to hero 3, and then that will dictate how they're displayed in a flex view. So if this changes to 2, for example, then they'll be side by side as 2 elements, like that. And if it's just 1, then it will just show us one big one. And it will always try and fit the image into this space available, basically. So that's what happens here. That's how it knows how many items are being selected. It will then go through and create using the list, the built-in list. I don't know what to call that element. It will go and basically create our grouping of all the items inside there. As part of that, it will basically call on render cell, which will create each of those list items for us. And that's where inside here, it will loop through each of the items that we've got. They're separated into one container and then one container, so that this one has its own one element and this has 4 elements. So they're basically, it splits it, the first element, this one here, sorry. So it splits the first item inside there, and then for the second one, it splits the last 4 from the available 5. And then it generates the first container, which is this one, pulls out the information, such as the file name, the URL, the title. And then it then generates the next 4. So it maps through the 4 items that will exist in the second items. And then it will generate each of those under that. And that's pretty much it for how that kind of works. It's more of a template for people. If you want to do something similar, you've got some code to kind of base it off of. But any feedback or anything like that, please let me know. And I'm gonna stop talking there. So probably talked everyone's ears off.
No, that was great stuff. Thanks, Omar. Really very cool techniques and very nice layout of the code there. Folks are commenting on that. I think there might be a couple of questions in the chat for you, but I think it's time to move over to Hugo for doing his exposing business data in Viva Connections. So thank you, Omar, and welcome, Hugo. Take it away.
Hi, everybody. My name is Hugo Bernard. I'm sorry, I'm laughing because I share my screen, and in front of my screen there's a giant water bottle, and I actually moved the water bottle out of the way so it wouldn't block your view. So that's how smart I am today. All right, so my name is Hugo Bernard. I'm a cloud solution architect at Microsoft, and today I'm going to be talking about exposing business data in Viva Connections or in SharePoint or in Teams with custom diagram web parts. So what I'm going to show you today is a series of web parts actually that I built more than 3 years ago with SPFX 171. And then recently I decided, you know what, it would be fun to upgrade it to the latest version of SPFX and add some cool concepts like how to handle dynamic data connections so that when you click on a web part, it passes data to another, or that it reacts to a web part that is another web part that's selected. How to create full bleed web parts so that I could put these diagrams at the top of a page in the header and do giant diagrams and things like that. How to handle section color changes, and how would it work in Viva Connections. As well as, one thing that we'll talk about is people often forget that the content in their web part sometimes should be searchable. Right, and so how to make the content inside the web part appear as part of the search results on a page so that people can actually find the stuff. Otherwise, it's as if you had all your content in a picture and nobody can find it. I didn't get to process the pull request to submit this web part because I decided at the very last minute that I was going to upgrade it to SPFX 113, but I will be doing that very shortly, post it in the SPFX repo. Until then, you can find it, the last version of this web part, these web parts, you can find them on my repo, which is listed here. All right. So let's talk about what these web parts do first, right? So sometimes you have some business data that you need to show in a compelling way, and charts and tables are just not going to do it, right? Maybe you want to show a business process or a decision tree or maybe a sequence diagram. And for example, here, this is a sequence diagram that shows 4 different participants that that are doing stuff, right? And they interact with each other. But maybe I want to show a sequence diagram on a SharePoint site or a team or using Viva Connections instead of putting in boring documents describing that process. And since it's visual, you could take that diagram and overlay some data, make it more meaningful. For example, maybe I want to show how many items are waiting at a particular step in a process. Or maybe I want to select an item from a list and dynamically update the diagram based on the item is selected. Or maybe I want to select a point in the diagram and dynamically show related items or documents related to that step in the process. And that's exactly what this solution does. In fact, the diagram you're looking at here is generated directly from one of the web parts. So I actually took some, those are actually old videos of the old web part, but because I can't talk and chew gum or walk at the same time, I figured I'd display this while I'm talking about it. So the challenge with doing diagrams like this is that you can easily generate like SVG and use like D3 libraries, for example, to create diagrams. But the problem is people need to be able to create these diagrams easily. And so there's a few libraries out there that are available that allows people to just type text in a markdown-like syntax, and it will generate a diagram. So as you can see here, this is one of the web parts that I'm going to show you where I can actually control this. And what you see here at the bottom is a property control that we created for the PnP library, which is called the Markdown property pane, and it allows you to do things like this. I want to show help in my property pane. I can do that easily without having to kind of render a whole bunch of controls. I can just create Markdown. So I'll show you how to do that very shortly. There's another web part, and I know it's a little bit blurry, but again, I'll show you the real thing very shortly, that allows you to write flow diagrams. And again, there's what I'm doing with all these web parts is I'm always showing the syntax help behind the scene on how to write these diagrams. So the great thing about that is it allows a regular user, so it's using Mermaid, it's using Sequence, and another one that I'll show you shortly. And one of the last one here is I think this one is the Mermaid diagram. Yeah, so Mermaid diagram allows me to actually create any kind of diagram that I want, really, and do it in a very compelling way. But let's not just show you boring screenshots. Let's actually show you the web part in action. All right. So the one thing I want to point out is that when you create a web part and people drop the web part on a page, it's always a great idea, like to give people kind of a good experience, right? So don't just drop a web part and start screaming at people saying, hey, there's an error in your diagram if you didn't put any information in there, right? So there's a PnP reusable control called the placeholder control, which will actually give you this experience that you see here. So when the diagram doesn't have text, it should show you, hey, create your diagram. And to get started, enter your diagram text and click on configure. And doing that will automatically launch the diagram. Now let me go get some sample diagrams here. So for example, I can just grab a graph and it'll actually display it dynamically. Now I can just update it here directly, and it'll work too. What do I want here? I don't want an iPhone. I want a Surface Duo, which is awesome, by the way. So you can actually update that dynamically. And as you can see, it just dynamically updates the text. Of course, I added the ubiquitous web part title here. So gratuitous title here. But what I've also added is a few things. One of the things that you'll notice here in this diagram is that I'm actually using a custom syntax. And this is, by the way, this is the Monoco Editor. The Monoco Editor, I'll show you a bit later, is this thing that Visual Studio Code uses. And it's available as a web-based control that you can embed in your solutions. So I've actually created this, and it actually knows the syntax. So if I, for example, I'm trying to remember now, if I try to put a subgraph here, it'll actually create right away. It'll know that these two things go together, subgraph and end. I've actually, for each one of these libraries, I've actually created a control that will allow me to embed the custom syntax here. I can obviously do the full experience with kind of the autocomplete and all that stuff. So if I start typing subgraph again, and if I actually type properly, it'll actually make this a collapsible section as well. I'll skip that. The other thing that we've done here is that we're using themes, obviously, but the one new theme that I've added is the ability to actually grab the SharePoint theme. And by that, I can also do things like change the colors of the section, and the diagram will automatically update. It kind of looks better with the regular theme. Let's just do that. 4. There you go. Let's go green. All right, so there's a whole bunch of diagrams that we can do here. So let's just grab another one here just to show you that I'm not cheating. So I can just kind of, this is awesome. But let's talk about, actually, I was going to talk about the concept of data, information, and knowledge. So why don't I just use this tool to do that? Now, this is completely unscripted. So participant, maybe I shouldn't have done that. So you've got data, you got information, and you've got knowledge. What's the difference between these three? I can't even count today. So data is when you take zeros and ones, right? Let's say you record how often you put gasoline in your car, and that means nothing in itself, right? So data has no meaning. But when you take data and you add context to it, so for example, if I took how often I put gas in your car, and I put it against a calendar, and I look at a calendar, and I see that you're putting gasoline in your car every Fridays and every Mondays, that starts meaning something, right? It starts meaning that maybe you commute somewhere during the week, and maybe on the weekends you go somewhere far away, or you do donuts in the parking lot, but you're doing something on the weekend that consumes as much gas as during the week. So, and I'm trying to type and multitask at the same time. But so that means that when you add context to data, it becomes information. And that means that information has meaning, right? And that's the important thing here, is that you can't just drop stuff in the middle of a page and hope that people will make sense of this. It's always a good idea to take that data and put it in context where it makes sense, where it's most useful to people. And that will start giving that data meaning. Now, what's the difference between information and knowledge? Because people have a tendency to use these things interchangeably. Well, knowledge is experience, is rules of thumbs, it's beliefs, and that resides in people's brains. So that means that in order to take information and to make it knowledge, you need to add people, right? I could take everything I know, I could write everything down and about, let's say, SharePoint, and unfortunately, it will just become information again, because you then have to take that information and apply it for it to become your own knowledge. And why is that important? Well, we're not quite able to scan people's brains yet, but understanding that the connection between taking data, putting it in context, and then making it easy for you to find the people that have more knowledge about that information is how you're going to kind of get the most value out of your data and your information. And this is where concepts like Viva Connection comes in, because you're able to actually take stuff that wouldn't matter for people and bring it at a point where it makes sense for people by giving it context. And then as much as possible, make it possible for people to click on that piece of information and go find the experts, the people that know about this. So now I got 5 more minutes. Let me show you some components here before we show to the code. So the first thing that I do, and I'll skip the other web parts, but the one thing that I'm doing is I'm using something called the Mermaid Library to do this. There's actually quite a few libraries. Mermaid is kind of a really cool library that allows you to do kind of all the diagrams that I was showing you before. You can do all these things and then more by just using simple text, and you can embed those in web parts, or again in Teams or Viva Connections. Really, really cool. My other web part actually uses the sequence diagram, which is actually the one that I use to generate the title of my slide. Uses the sequence diagram, and this one actually supports hand-drawn diagrams versus simple diagrams. It's a great way to communicate with your team. You put it on your team site, and you can actually share a process or something like that. Yes, actually, Mermaid is implemented in the Azure DevOps wikis as well. And then there's another one called Flowcharts, which allows you to actually do advanced flowcharts. And that's what my 3 web parts do, is they really, because I may have mentioned this before, I am the world's laziest developer. Why would I go and rewrite code that someone else has written and someone way smarter and way better looking that has built something that does something really cool like that and it's already been tested? Why don't I just take the time to take that library, embed it inside of my solution, and make it work with like themes and accessibility and things like that? So the other thing that I've done, again, I've talked about Monoco Editor. I'm actually using the Monoco Editor library. Now, those of you who have tried to use Monoco Editor inside of an SPFX solution, I know Chris Kent did one solution that has it. It's not the easiest thing to do. So one of the things that I would love to know in the chat is this control that I created, which allows you to embed a Monoco editor in a web part and allows you to create you can use the standard syntax, but you can actually create your own syntax as well and your own syntax highlighter and auto completion. If you think that this is a control that would be useful to the community, please let me know, and I will submit it to the PnP reusable controls. I'll be watching for the chats in the window. I'm running out of time. All right, so let me just try to wrap this up and we'll skip the code for today. The other thing that we have that we're using here is the property pane markdown control. This is something that I built. Actually, I built this control when I built the last version of this web part, but this is something that you can use if you ever need to put instructions inside of your web parts. It's just really cool to do that kind of stuff. And again, the more guidance you can give your users in using some complicated things like that, the better it is. I wish I had some time to cover the code, but again, I need to wrap it up. I'm hearing the Oscar music playing me off stage. Thank you, everyone. I'll stick around if you have any questions. Thank you, David, for posting the links. And Patrick, I'll give it back to you to wrap it up.
All right. Thank you, Hugo, for that. And thank you, Omar, for your demo. Great stuff from everybody. Really excited to see that. And Mermaid JS is very cool. I've played with that a little bit. And it's really kind of shocking how well that works and how neat that is to draw those graphs. So thank you to everybody for joining us today. Thank you to our presenters again, Omar and Hugo. This recording will be available in about 24 hours on our YouTube channel there. You can always follow us on Twitter at Microsoft 365 Dev or at M365PnP. Next SPFX call, 2 weeks, August 12th. Same time. Next M365 General Dev call next Thursday, August 5th. Already into August, same time as well. All the community calls, you can always find the links there at aka.ms/M365 PnP. We've got a bunch of different developer community calls. Again, these will all be kind of revamped come the fall, just so we get a little bit better schedule for everybody. So just want to say thank you to everybody for joining us today and look forward to talking to you soon. Have a great rest of your week and bye-bye.